Welcome back, Sober Family. This is another episode of Recovery Talk. This is show number 2 today that we're doing. I really hope you guys enjoyed the first one a couple hours ago with Dylan from the Not So Anonymous podcast. Amazing, powerful story that he had. I was just blown away by it, you know. But I have Jenny going live with me today. So you guys may not know this, but her sister Jessica went live with me, and I see you there, Jessica. She went live with me 2 weeks ago. So this is gonna be kind of cool, you know. It's like a sober sibling thing, you know. Eventually, we'll probably end up going live all together, you know, in the future. I definitely see that happening. Want to talk a little bit about PRP right now. A lot of people may not know exactly what PRP is. So what we're doing right now, we're in the middle of my wife and I turning Pro Recovery Power into a nonprofit organization. You know, help people who struggle with alcohol and substance abuse find their way out of the dark into the light and recover from their addiction. You know, the objective for PRP is to take the message of recovery to the streets, treatment centers, schools, churches, and all around the world through social media. But in order to do that, we need to reach nonprofit status. So that's what we are doing right now. That's what PRP is. Yes, we got clothing line. We go live. We got YouTube. We got our own website. But that is what PRP is or will be in the near future. So without further ado, let's get Jenny in here and we can get this party started. And I did not cut my hair. I just have it up. I'm sure somebody will ask that. Hey, there she is.
Hey,
How's it going?
good. How are you?
All right, good. You know, it's another sober Saturday for me. You know, I always tell people that, you know, my favorite day of the week is Saturday, especially Saturday morning, because I can remember everything I did Friday night. I got all my money in my bank account. You know, I didn't steal nobody's stuff. I didn't use nobody, you know, to get what I want, nothing like that. But honestly, that was like an everyday thing. Like that was an everyday thing. So it's like every day I'm grateful, you know.
Yes,
But
I love
yeah.
that.
But thank you so much, you know, for agreeing to do this. You and your sister Jessica are the first sober siblings I think that I actually know, but definitely that has agreed to go live and share you guys stories, you know. So I know a little bit about. We talked over the phone. I know a little bit about it, so I'm really looking forward to, you know, hearing all of it. You know, I'm really excited, and thank you so much, you know,
Yeah,
for
of
taking the
course.
time to do this. Yeah, I know this is well. It's more like welcome back because you were at the end of the other one when with
Yeah,
your sister.
popped in, little cameo.
Yeah. Mhm. Mm. So before we get started, should I call you Jenny or Jen?
Jenny.
Jenny. Okay, cool.
hmm
Okay, I'll ask you a few questions before we get started, get into this. So first question is, how long have you been sober?
I've been sober for a little over 7 months. Got sober
Okay.
October 13th, 2020.
Okay, cool. October 13th, right on. I know there's more to it than that. I'm sure you're going to talk about it, you know. And where are you from?
I'm from uh, Minneapolis, Minnesota, basically.
Yeah. Is that
Yeah.
where you live now or?
Yep, I live in Bloomington, close to Minneapolis. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. And what was your choice in drink and or drug?
Alcohol and Adderall.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, it's a party. Yeah. And then real quick before I give you the floor to tell your story, I just want to talk a little bit more. I have an announcement to make, and that is if you guys could, all the viewers, if you guys could, I'll ask you please go to our website, prorecoverypower.com. On the bottom right-hand corner, there is a little survey questionnaire, and that will help move the vision forward of turning PRP into a nonprofit organization. So thank you guys so much. Also, every Wednesday night, we have our own recovery meetings as well. It's through Zoom. It's at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you guys want to join and jump on, you guys can check the my all of my posts. I have it in there a bunch of times. You guys can message me here. It doesn't matter. If you guys want to be a part of that and get some inspirational recovery, we're there Wednesdays. Okay, so without further ado, Jenny, I'll give you the floor to tell us your story.
All right, here we go. First of all, thank you for having me and thank you for doing what you're doing. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to be here. I am not like my sister. I don't write everything down. I just kind of like, whatever comes to me, here we go.
Yeah.
So it might not be as organized as hers, but I'm excited to be here. So I'm Jenny. I'm an alcoholic. Um, I will kind of just go over what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, I believe Jess shared too, but we had an unconventional childhood, we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
Lived on top of the funeral home.
Mm-hmm.
Our dad was a funeral director, and my mom worked there too. So it was like you always had to be quiet. Like you were to be not seen or heard, really, basically. So we grew up. We moved a bunch of times, and basically, I feel like my role as a child was to be a peacekeeper in a not so peaceful situation. So that kind of like, set the stage for a lot of the rest of my life in terms of like, it was my job to anticipate others' needs and take care of them. So that was kind of interesting. Moving forward into like, I think with my junior year of high school is my first drink. And I remember I was like, whoa, this is like finally some relief, finally some like I just didn't feel so like afraid all the time. So it kind of gave me that sense of ease, I guess. And a lot of people say like it wasn't a problem right away for me. And I just like, for me, I think it was a problem right away. I used it to escape from the minute I started. And I remember my sister was in college and I went to visit her as a senior in high school, and I drank so much that I had a 3-day hangover, like
Oh, wow.
physically sick that much. And like part of like how I can be like, yeah, even back then I was an alcoholic, like most people will like have that sickness and be like, I'm not doing that again. I was just like, when can I do that again? Like it wasn't like it wasn't like a deterring thing. So throughout college, continued to drink to blackout, and I started going to therapy because part of my story is that along with alcoholism, I have mental illness, and discovering that through therapy was really important to me, and I think a big part of my growth. But it was also like sometimes therapy can get worse before it gets better. You dive into stuff that you don't really like want to talk about. Yeah. And so it started with diagnosis of depression and anxiety and some PTSD, and so I didn't know what to do with that, but I continued drinking, that's for sure, because it was going to give me that relief. So when I was about 20, between 19 and 21, I had 3 hospitalizations of suicide attempts. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to make decisions on my own, and all 3 were the night after being under the influence. So alcoholism is part of all 3 of those. My life was just, it was just so hard, and I continued to drink. And I was the person who I would have terrible hangovers. Like it wasn't just physically, like mentally, I would just hate myself, like, how did this happen again? Just kind of over and over again. So after my hospitalizations, though, I did get involved in DBT therapy, dialectic behavioral therapy, and that was really effective for me because it gave me like homework and skills to practice. So, I did that, and I ended up graduating college, which was amazing for me. And I got accepted to go to Gallaudet University, which is a pretty famous deaf university, for my master's in social work. And so I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And for all my friends who are deaf out there, I will interpret, and I'll post something with signing my story. So just to let everybody know. It's important to have access for everybody. I did notice there was captions on my sister's story too, so that are on her post. But anyway, back to my story. I went to Gallaudet. I moved in with 9 deaf roommates. And I went to a school of all deaf and hard of hearing, which scattered with a few hearing people who signed. I was clearly the minority, and it was not something I was used to. And it was really hard for me. And I would go and I would complain to my deaf roommates and my deaf friends and say, like, I just, like, it's so hard. And they're like, how do you think we feel every day in normal life? And it just hit me. It's like, wow. Okay. You know, it was, but it, you know, it was difficult, and I needed to cope, and I coped with, I went to work when I wasn't in class, and I would go work at a bar in a restaurant, and that was my place that I could speak in, you know, in my first language, in English. And if you've ever worked in the service industry, you know, at the end of a shift, the way you connect is you just drink. Like, you just keep going. And like it, that was my source of connection. So I drank pretty heavily, and to stay awake, I experienced some other drugs, and it was miserable, man. It got to the point I couldn't take it anymore, and I ended up moving home. I started waitressing at home. Felt like a complete failure. Continued to drink, and I basically, after that, I found a job that was really great. Continued to drink, and then one day I blacked out, and I woke up and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I decided I was gonna try to be sober. And I did actually go to a 12-step program like once or twice, like a meeting, and I was just like, thanks for the information, I think I got this. So and I ended up staying sober for 2 years. In that 2 years, I had my beautiful daughter, and I was living with her dad, and we were doing great. And then all of a sudden, it was a Valentine's Day dinner date, and nothing happened. No significant event. And I just thought, I'm gonna have wine with dinner tonight. So 2 years later, I have dinner with wine. It was no problem. I had one. The very next time, I blacked out drinking. You know, that ism, it's just there.
Yeah.
And the phenomenon of craving is there. And
Yeah.
it's there for me. It's just my brain, you know? And so I stayed out drinking, and I really struggled with the hangovers and not being able to control it, and trying so hard to pretend that I could. I ended up moving out to LA with my daughter and her dad, and continued drinking up there. And we just got to a point where we both decided that we were going to separate, and I moved back with my daughter and my dog. And you know, a 3-year-old in one arm and a dog who like couldn't walk in the other for some reason. That's a whole other story. And I was like, I'm a single mom all of a sudden, and I don't know what to do with this. And again, the theme of people pleasing comes back into play, because I didn't know how to live without pleasing someone else. You know, like that was really hard for me. So I also I have ADHD, so I was prescribed Adderall, and I was taking Adderall, but I was drinking, and I could not stay in my own head. My daughter's dad moved back and had her half the time, and that half the time I was out. Like, I was not willing to be in my own head. So I would escape with alcohol, and I would, you know, I would take Adderall, but then I just started taking it more and more, and not as prescribed. And like, I just wanted to be up all the time. So it was really a combination, you know, bad combination. And I got to the point where like I was genuinely afraid sometimes. I would take so much, like, am I gonna die? Like, my heart was racing. This is not good. And I could tell that it was becoming a problem, but I didn't know what to do about it. And then there was the last night that I was drinking, it was July 17th was the last night I was drinking, and I woke up the 18th in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't remember anything. I had crashed my car. I had attempted to drive, obviously. I have no recollection of it at all,
Mm-hmm.
which is the scariest part. And I woke up and it was COVID, and I woke up in a hospital bed. I had no idea where I was. They could only let one person up because it was COVID, and I asked my sister to come up. She had become sober a little bit before me, and that was a big resistance to me becoming sober too, because again, I didn't want to follow somebody else's track, you know, like I wanted to do. And I honestly, if she would have tried to get me to get sober, it wouldn't have worked. Like she just, and I think she knew that. But she walked in the hospital room with a bright pink sweatshirt and a smile on her face, just saying like, I'm here and you're not judged and you're loved. And that is exactly what I needed. And she also said welcome, because she knew that my ass was getting to those, you know, like those program meetings. And so that was the day I admitted I was powerless, July 18th, 2020. And I got into an intensive outpatient program, and it was all virtual because of COVID and everything. And I walked in with an attitude, man. I had a drug and alcohol counselor, and I was like, you're a middle-aged white male, so why would I listen to you? And he just very calmly said, you know, I can't change my race or my age or my gender, but I can change how I interact with you if you tell me how. And I was like, what the hell? Why would he say that to me and be so kind? And like, I was like, all right, let me give it a shot. And I started connecting with these people. It was amazing. In outpatient, and it was just like, what in the hell? Like I relate to all these people, but I was convinced that I was unique, and I needed, you know, like I needed a very specific, you know, type of people to be around, but that wasn't the case at all. Like we had all very different stories, but we had the same ism and the same feelings and thoughts. And that really, really helped me solidify. I was where I was supposed to be. The same thing happened. I work a program of recovery with 12 steps, and I have a sponsor. And it's funny because I'm sober 7 months, and not 9 months, because 3 months in, I couldn't take it anymore, and I relapsed with Adderall. And I just, and I'm very lucky, I think, because I did it. And then I had the connection with these people in outpatient, and I called some people I trusted. I said, I need to meet you face to face, because I knew I needed to stare them in the eyes and say, I messed up. And I could justify it because I was prescribed and all this stuff, but I knew I was taking it alcoholically, you know, like it wasn't And so to be able to, like, I'll never forget these people that I got to talk with, and they just looked at me and said it was okay. And I reset my date, and that was it. Like I needed to be completely, you know, sober for what is sober for me. And you know, I've learned through this time around that, you know, recovery is very individual. And I continued, I finished my outpatient, and I continued to go to, you know, I just basically, the best thing that happened was I started letting go and stopped trying to understand everything. And that's when some peace and ease came to me. I needed to know why did this work, and like what specifically, and I just had to just like let go. And here I am, 7 months later, still sober, and just happy to be here and grateful.
Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you sharing that with us. You know, especially like the relapse stuff. A lot of people, a lot of shame comes to that. But, you know, it sounds to me like, you know, when you called these people that you trusted, like you at this point, you learned how to be honest with yourself. And, you know, you could have been like, oh, well, it's prescribed to me, the Adderall, so that don't count, you know, but you knew what you were doing, and you admitted it. And that's a step. It's a huge step in the right direction, especially like when you're brand new, because I work in treatment. And first of all, you know, I wanted to say to you is that, like, my hat is definitely off to you, and anybody that got sober in COVID. I mean, it's just my opinion about it, because like you guys didn't have the same resources I had, and I mean Zoom came along eventually, you know, and people started going meetings through Zoom, but it's not the same. Like it is a very good substitute, but it will never ever replace like a live meeting where you can look at somebody, you can feel the emotion in the room, you can talk to somebody, you can hug somebody, you know, that human interaction, that like that kind of stuff. It cannot be replaced. You know, in my opinion, like for me, it can't. You know, that connection, like you talked about. You know, the addiction. The opposite of addiction is connection. A lot of people say, and I totally agree with that. It makes so much sense. Because I mean, I think too, because how I grew up, you know, in Hawaii, we're very family oriented. We like to talk and hang out and eat food and drink a lot. Actually, alcohol is
Yeah.
part of the culture. You know, and everything. But you said something. What did you say? Oh, you said recovery is very individual. I like that you brought that up, because see, when I first got sober, you know, I heard people say in the rooms, you know, if you want, we have, do what we do. So to me, I had this mindset of one size fits all, guarantee. Because if I do what they do, I'm gonna get what they got. Like there's no other way to, like, you know, one size fits all. Apparently, it doesn't work that way. I found out later on, you know, going through my journey. You know,
Right.
it's cool that you know, like like it seems like we went through the same book. So you probably remember how it talks about, you know, our common peril, our common problem brought us together. You know, but that's not what's going to keep us together. It's a solution that keeps us together. You know, that we absolutely can agree upon. And you know, these people that I work with in treatment, you talked about being in treatment, how you can relate, and like I can too, man. Like sometimes they'll be hanging out like in the daytime, like around the fire pit. The fire's not on, but like that's the area we call it, the fire pit. And they're just hanging. And I just go and I go sit down and I go talk with them. I just go chop it up with them. All the other employees, although a lot of them, or all of them actually, all the other employees have had to struggle with drugs and alcohol. But I don't know, like that's my people. Like I can sit in there, I can talk with them. You know, like honestly, I get in a couple council sessions while I'm in there. You know, it's like another group I'm running already. You know,
Yeah.
and everything, because I can see like somebody, one person in particular, or a couple people down there right now, like they really love when I facilitate the groups, and it's not because I'm so great, honestly. It's because like how my sponsor sponsored me, it trickled over into my life. So what I mean is, like my sponsor has never told me what to do. He's never made me do anything at all. I have never felt threatened that he's trying to take away my free will, ever. And to me, that's why it has been so effective on me, because I made all the decisions. He didn't make it for me. He didn't even try to. So that's how I counsel and that's how I sponsor. And so people, when I start talking, they can feel that from me. You know, I mean, of course, I got a lot of knowledge in this field and I share my own experiences and stuff, but I mean, those connections that are made, and like they kind of feel for me like, wow, man, this, I thought this guy was gonna tell me what to do every day. You know, this stuff. I mean, of course, there are some things we gotta tell them, okay, fix your bed, you know, take your dishes out of your room, you know,
Yeah.
like, you know, those kind of things. But like recovery things, real life things, we're not telling. You know, groups is mandatory, obviously, so you know, they know that. We don't even gotta tell them that and everything. But yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. You know, that, you know, recovery is very individual. It's not like my recovery not gonna look like yours or somebody else's one. And I used to care a lot about that. Like, but wait, like my life is great now. Like if they don't do it like me, they're not gonna get this great life that I got. You
Yeah.
know, but like I mean, like I made the mistake of going to my lane and go, oh, let's go into Jenny's lane now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Let's go to
Yes.
Marcus's lane and Jeff's lane, you know? And then I start working on the people's program for them, or telling them how to do it. And that was a huge no-no for me, you know?
Hmm.
But the thing that I struggled with the most, and the thing that still is the one thing that I struggle with the most, is control, you know? The powerlessness and control, like I use that interchangeably. But that's something that I mean, I've gotten way better at it. So it's nowhere
Yeah.
near like what I was like at all. But
I
it'll
think
still,
that's what Adderall gave me, that full sense of control, because I was doing
yeah,
a lot more efficiently, but I wasn't connecting. There was no true connection. And so I
right.
wasn't happy, you know?
Hmm.
And it's just like, I think I control everything, but I couldn't, even when I was, on
Yeah.
Adderall. But yeah, that false sense of control, man, that's so tricky. And like
Yeah.
having to admit like, oh yeah, I can't control this. I mean, it's tough, but it's so freeing when you can actually
Yes.
do it.
Yeah. Yeah, control is an illusion. Somebody told me that. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
The control is an illusion. And for me personally, when I wasn't in control, I was out of control.
Yeah.
And it's not even big things like, where we're going to invest our money or something. It's not like huge. It could be where we're going to eat for lunch. Like we had to go where I wanted to go. Oh, if not, it's the end of the world, you know?
Totally.
And things, just little things too, like that. It didn't have to be big things at all. Um, but yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because that's something that I've seen in 12-step culture that's a huge trap that we can fall into. See, but the difference is some people they do that, but their motive is good. See, my motive wasn't good. I was trying to control them. That's really what I was trying to do. You see, so I'm not talking about the people necessarily that have good motives. See, because that's like intangible. You can't see somebody's motive. You cannot. You know. So, but we know what we're doing. Like how you were able to admit the Adderall you weren't taking it as prescribed. Kind of thing. And that's something that I have experienced that has been so freeing for me is being honest with myself. I found out if I can, when I finally was honest with myself, I was 33 years old already. Like I'm talking about even before drug addict and alcoholic. I wasn't honest with myself about me. I really wasn't because I thought I need to look a certain way. My muscles got to be a certain size. I got to surf a certain size waves. Certain girls got to like me and all this kind of stuff.
Totally.
So I never really was comfortable, really, honestly, with me, because on top of that, I was introverted. So I don't say a whole lot at all, and for some reason I thought girls could read my mind. So and that a lot of miscommunication happened. But then I enter age was like 13 and started drinking. 15, I was using drugs. And then, I was already prepped for this disease of addiction, by this time. Oh, I had a lot of practice already, but being honest with myself was by far the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
I
Like,
totally
like,
agree.
like nothing has come close to this. But like you said, it's so tough, but it's so freeing. My goodness, it is.
Yes. And
It's
I
like,
used to think that I wasn't selfish or whatever because I was always trying to please other people. But really, that was more so they would like me.
mhm,
Like I wasn't the one who needed us to go to the certain place for lunch. I needed to figure out what you wanted and
right.
make sure that happened. But it is also a false sense of control, and it also is a way that like I think I can control you to liking me because I'm going to do
Yeah.
and say exactly what
Yeah.
you think. And
Yeah.
and there's a sense of like not being honest with yourself in
Right.
that too. So
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. It's like you did the control thing like a very subtle way. Like mine was very direct, kind of thing. Oh, that's so cool. Okay, another thing you talked about um, that I definitely can relate to is you talked about, like I drank to get blackout drunk. That's it. I didn't drink to hang out and socialize and we'll watch the football game or we're going out to dinner, have a glass of wine. Nope. Like we wouldn't be drinking bottles of wine, or I am anyway, you know what I mean? Or bottles of vodka, and like it could be just like one little small family get together. I mean, like I get the two handles, you know what I mean? I got a bunch of beer. It's like a huge party or something I'm going to that is gonna last like 3 hours, but I'm trashed already, by the
well, you got
by
to
the
make sure there's
halfway.
enough for everybody else, but then there's got to be enough for you
Yeah,
separately.
yeah, exactly. And then I'd go home or I'd stop by the dope man's house. No, I would stop by, pick up some dope, so that way I can drink even more now. And I finished the whole bottle at this point.
Totally.
But yeah, that's something that I definitely can relate to. It's
Well,
because like I don't know what.
it wasn't always starting out that way for me. Like
Mhm.
I didn't always go into the night thinking, but like something would happen within me once I started drinking. Like sometimes I'd be like, oh yeah, let's go out, and it was started as fun, but it
Right.
always end up in the same place, just wanting more and more and more. And there
Yes.
wasn't ever enough. And if I
Right.
was drinking the way I wanted, I would end up blackout, and if I wasn't happy. Like
Mm-hmm.
being buzzed sounded terrible to me. I didn't understand why
Yeah.
people would stay buzzed. That sounds
Yeah. Let's get right to the
what?
point, people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's just
Yeah.
how I think and feel. Like,
Yeah.
and I had to like reflect on that later on.
Yeah. You know, you just said something that's my next thing I wanted to talk about. That phenomenon of craving that sets off in us that doesn't set off in the normal temper drinker. You know, that's something I was totally unaware of. You know, I would always ask myself, and like, bro, why do you do this? Like, why can't you just be like so and so and just have a few drinks, watch the game, watch the fight, and go home? Like,
Right.
why do you got to keep drinking and keep using? Why? Like what I was really trying to do was get down to causes and conditions of why I do what I do. It wasn't until I got sober and got into the rooms that I went to the doctor's opinion. Oh, that made so much sense to me. This allergic reaction that sets off in me that doesn't set off in like the normal person, I guess you could
Yeah.
say. You know, and that's what it was like. It literally, I was about 19, 20 when well, looking back, when I was sober, I started looking back. I was thinking, yeah, I was about 19, 20 years old, where before I crossed that line over into active addiction, I had like a substance abuse problem, and then I crossed that line, full blown addict, alcoholic already, and that's when I noticed, like, once I started, I couldn't stop. See, but what blurred the lines for me, and why I couldn't see it earlier was because everybody I was around was doing the same thing. So it was normal. See,
Mm-hmm.
what was really abnormal to me was when we're all partying, we're at the hotel, with somebody's house, we're somewhere. And then somebody goes, oh, bro, it's 10 o'clock. I got to go home. I work tomorrow. Okay, that was not normal to me.
Yeah.
That was not like 10. It's like, what? Okay, whatever. More drugs for us, more booze for us.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, okay. Like, we're not calling him next time, kind of thing. Because I never, because I was such a hardcore drinker and hardcore user. I needed to be around people. Like, this is all happening unconsciously with me. I needed to be around people who could keep up with me. Because if I didn't, then I started to look at myself like, oh, bro, you kind of maybe an alcoholic now. But if I'm hanging around people who can hang with me for days, then I'm good. I'm not,
Exactly. You
Yeah.
had to set yourself up and make sure there was at least a couple people who would be there with you, and you're like, okay, I'm not the only one, so it's fine,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And it's very difficult to stay up for days on cocaine and vodka or on alcohol. It is difficult. Like, you got to have a ton of it, you know. But okay. Thank you again for sharing your story. This little convo we got going is great. As we're winding down, I want to ask you a few questions, some good ones here. So the first one is, what makes your current sobriety now different from your 2 years of sobriety when you're in your 20s? You're not in your 20s anymore?
No.
You look like you're in
I'm
your
30.
20s.
30, 40, and thriving. No, it's a great question. And the main thing that's different this time around is that I am not trying to do it off self-will.
Oh, yeah.
By myself alone. I understand, for me, it was, that's, like giving it up to my higher power.
Mm-hmm.
And I know everyone's different, but I needed that divine intervention, that help, and to be connected with my higher power, that there's something along the lines of that. So not being alone in the fact that I'm, asking for help from my higher power, and then not being alone in recovery, people like you and people that I can be in meetings with to help me understand that I'm not alone, that I'm in this with other people. That was just like, that is the main difference. I think, the higher power, I'm not doing it out self-will anymore. Self-will wouldn't help me, and self-knowledge wouldn't help me. That is the craziest part. It's like, if you know, why wouldn't you? And it just doesn't help. And the community and fellowship, along with I think that a big part of it is like saying today I will not drink, because the black and white, like, I will never drink again, didn't work for me. Like, I said that so many times, and I continued to do it. It's like, I just, one day at a time, I'm with my people, I'm asking for help from my higher power. And that's the difference between now and before, really.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you mentioned something. Like I can totally relate to you. You know that divine intervention. I was far beyond human aid. Like my human will failed me. Everything human failed me. Honestly, I couldn't restore myself back to sanity. God needed to intervene in my life, and He did. You know, He did. And in the process of recovery, you know, He didn't just save me. In the process of recovery, He taught me how to stay saved, because my way of thinking can take me right back where, oh God, you can come save me all over again now. You know,
Totally.
yeah, it's so cool, man. It's amazing. Totally relatable to me. Okay, the next one. Okay, I'm interested to hear this answer. What's one of your favorite phrases or slogans you've heard in recovery? There's tons of
Um,
them.
yes, I see. This is why I love hanging around other alcoholics in recovery, because you just pick up on some of the stuff and you're like, "What? That's awesome." And honestly, when I'm in blame, anger, and resentment, I'm in the bar. So I'm like, that
Oh,
puts
let me
me
write that down.
to a drink, because if you stay in blame, anger, and resentment long enough, you're gonna pick up. So
Yeah.
you know you got to do something about it. So I was like, totally true. And I think my sister mentioned it, but my grandma, my grandma Joan used to say when we were all, you know, little kids and like had a bad attitude, that we had plum disease, which is poor little old me. Poor. And that same thing, like pour me, pour me, pour me a drink. Like if you stay in that mindset long enough, you know,
Yeah.
you're in danger. You're in danger.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. And you know, there's some people that follow me that are not alcoholics and drug addicts. So this
Mm-hmm.
might be kind of weird for them, because blame, anger, resentment, what does that have to do with drugs and alcohol? Nothing.
Yeah.
But
Right.
actually it has everything to do with it. You know
Yes.
what I mean? But like, you know, you separate somebody like me from drugs and alcohol, I can still lie to you. I can still steal your stuff. I can
Mm-hmm.
still use you. I can manipulate you. You know, for me, like the book talks about it, the price I paid for the life I have today, it meant the destruction of self-centeredness.
Mm-hmm.
Self-will run riot, like, oh, that wasn't working. I tried to do it for
Totally.
33 years. It just did not work, man.
Nope.
But that's a great one. You know, to be honest, I've been around in the rooms almost 5 years, and I never heard that one before. The bar, blame, anger, resentment. That's great. That's a
Yeah, I
good
love
one.
that one.
Yeah. Okay. Some people might be interested in hearing the answer to this question. Do you ever miss going out, the whole party scene, the you know the whole lifestyle?
Totally. I This is just such a funny question, because like I miss what I thought I could have when I went
Hmm.
out. You know, I
Hmm.
thought it's just like I never actually, like, I missed like the feeling of excitement.
No.
Um, but all I have to do is play it forward
Hmm.
and remember what it is like later in the night, even, or that next morning for sure, if that won't
Right.
get it. You know, that next morning of just total, like, for me it was terrible. I mean, I just like, I think someone said in someone said once, sewing machine leg, and like that, like anxiety, and you like can't stop moving. I'm like, that is exactly how it feels like. um so playing it forward and like I think I kind of like had to grieve this loss of an idea that wasn't true anymore for me. It
Hmm.
never will be fun again for me, and like that's okay. It's shifting the mindset of like what, you know, what is fun, and like what, and I guess like going out and partying, I will never miss it as much as I cherish the moments I have in the morning with my daughter when we're giggling, playing with the
Hmm.
dog. Like that, what's really important now is what is exciting for me now.
Yeah.
So, like, the ideas and like the false idea of what it was like to go out, like, I just have to remember the reality, and again, like, be honest with yourself
Hmm.
and play it forward,
Yeah.
and then I don't miss it at all.
Yeah, you know, active, like being active in an addiction, like we don't, we lose the capability of like playing the tape through, like how you just talked about. I remember when I was in school, I learned something from is a doctor. His name was Kevin McCauley. So he talked about how like our prefrontal cortex is the part of our brains that makes decisions. But after, you know, after so much drug use and alcohol abuse, um, like trying, like giving this example of playing the tape through. So you know how like you see people like this, like us, we were one of them. They just keep doing the same thing over and over and over. They can't make good decisions. They keep drinking. They keep using. So he talked about that because like we don't really play the tape through. So all of the people we're gonna hurt, all the money we're gonna spend, all the consequences waiting for us on the other side of that, it's literally invisible to us. You know, the longer we use it. So, but that's why when you just sober, just get some, like you detox, you get some time between you and the last time you drank or used, your brain starts to recover a little bit. And then, and you know, at a certain point, you can play the tape through. Like, yeah, you literally have the capacity to do that. But active in an addiction, it's like water, like a river going down, and it because you know water can shape rock. After doing it for so much times, that's just automatically like what we're gonna do: drink, use, drink, use, drink, use, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, because I really don't miss the going out and stuff. I miss the socializing. You know what? Like was better for me than actually getting drunk or getting high. It was the anticipation of it. That was way more fun for me. You know, that was way more fun. But you know, if I could drink and use without suffering any consequences, I wouldn't be sober, guaranteed. You know, but I never found a way to do that, so I don't.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. The next question, Jenny, is: do you ever feel guilty prioritizing your recovery?
Totally. This is something that I had to face, especially with my sobriety now being as a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to give like a big, huge shout out to my mom and my sister.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in outpatient, it was 4 hours a night or 3 hours a night for 4 days a week. And they would take turns coming and watching my daughter so that I could totally focus. And that was a lot of time and effort on their end to support me. And so like I will forever be grateful to them, and they continue to watch my little girl. But I would be like, that's time I'm supposed to be with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to remember that specifically for the outpatient, that wasn't forever. You know, that was a chunk of time. But if I didn't do it, you know, then I couldn't show up as the mom that I wanted to be for her.
Yeah.
So there had to be, and even now I have Wednesday nights, I meet with women, badass women, and I love them. And my daughter's with me. It's not, you know, it's not her dad's night, and I still do it. And I thought about it, and I thought maybe I shouldn't, but I think it teaches her that mom is going to prioritize her well-being, and that mom needs to set boundaries, and that mom is doing this to be a good mom. And it helps me show up for her, but it gives her an example of of taking care of herself and prioritizing things that are important in life.
Right.
And so I think when I start feeling guilty, I remember that, and then I'm okay. So it's not like I don't have any time with my daughter either, you know.
Right.
We still have plenty of time, but it's still like it, especially as moms and like as parents, I think that can get to us sometimes. And I think it's really important to remember, like, but you get to be the best parent ever.
Right.
Exactly, that you could possibly be if you do this and you do the work that you need to do, whatever that means, to be sober. So that's how I get through that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good, you know, because I've heard that so many times, like in treatment, especially, you know, the woman's, but what about my kids? I gotta spend time with my kids. Like, did you forget you gotta get better first? You know, like
yeah,
you know, and typically, you know, a lot of fear behind that. That's why, or they're not ready. You know, and like nobody can be argued into recovery or in getting sober. Like you cannot. It just does not work. That is the most ineffective way to try to help somebody get sober. You know, that ever existed.
exactly.
But I have one more question, but before I ask you, because the way you explain like those hangovers, like those 3 days and just excruciating pain. So you're a mother. What was worse, giving birth or those hangovers?
Hangovers.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. Amazing.
I
But
also had an epidural, so.
okay, okay. Okay. Yeah, I like ever since my wife gave birth to our son, my level of respect went up for women who have given birth. It's a truly amazing experience because I got to be present there. Like I literally was like moving the nurses out of the way. I was coaching my wife the whole time.
Yeah.
Like I was present. I was there for everything. I got to see my son coming out. Like holy crap! It's just an unbelievable experience, man. That I
Absolutely.
can remember. I wasn't drunk. I wasn't high. I was
Right.
there. I remember everything. I got everything on video, actually. Not everything. We're not
Yeah.
supposed to, actually, but I had it set up on the tripod in the corner of the room.
So
See,
great.
I'm still defiant. I still like to
Yes.
break the rules. I got to
Yes.
work on that. But Jenny, before I let you go, one more thing I want to ask you is, what would you say to encourage somebody that's still suffering right now, somebody that's trying to get sober, or like the newcomer?
Gosh, that's a great question. I would say you're worth it.
Yeah.
You're worth it. And it's things are never as bad as they seem, and they're never as good as they seem.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I get that. Like I would like, not telling the truth. I was over exaggerating things, or like, I was always gonna outdo you. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you surfed this wave. Oh, I surfed this wave. You drank this much. I drank this much. But I was like lying all the time anyway. You know.
Yeah.
But no, absolutely. Like people out there who are trying to get sober, who are sober right now and trying to stay sober. Yeah, you're worth it. You guys are. You are. Everybody's worth it, and every people. Your lives matter. This girl, when I told her that at treatment, was it a couple days ago, she started crying. Nobody ever told her that before, that her life matters. I mean, it was so simple. And she started crying because nobody ever told her that before. And it started making me cry. But they,
Yeah.
they, they, they tell us not to do that. It's very unprofessional. I was like, "Psh, I can't, I mean, I wasn't
I mean,
crying,
you can't
like,
help it.
but I could
Emotions are
feel it.
definitely.
I
I
could feel it.
I actually when I was trying to get better after hospitalizations, I really focused in on Brene Brown's work,
Hmm.
and one of her quotes, which I have on my arm, is
Oh, that was what I was going to ask you. That was the
yeah,
next thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's something that I think every single person should hear, and that is, you're imperfect and you're wired for struggle, but you're
Hmm.
worthy of love and belonging,
Oh,
and
absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah,
that is
because
true for
that was gonna be my last thing to you. What did the tattoo say? Yeah, like honestly, my guess was the Serenity Prayer. Because I know a lot of people that do that,
yeah.
but I wasn't sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I just
Um,
I find so many parallels with her work in recovery, and what I learned in recovery, and then I also, like, big shout out to my grandma Marlene, because the way she lives, or the way she lived, um, the more I learn about giving it to my higher power and being grateful and helping
mhm,
others, that's how she lived, man.
mhm.
That's how she lived, and she was happy. And so
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of like, I don't know, just reconfirming that, like, wow, my grandma taught me a lot, and I get to relearn some of the things that she did and she
Mhm.
acted on, through my recovery. And I just think it's
Yeah,
really cool. It's a
it
good, great way
is.
to connect with her. So
Yeah, that's great, man. She sounded like somebody that, was a good example for people to follow. And so are you, man. I'm listening to you, you're doing this deal. Like, I don't know, like I've only heard one person tell me about COVID, like that got sober during COVID. It was in Santa Monica the other week, and at a meeting. So she said, "Oh no, it was easy." I was thinking, "What was easy about it?" She's like, "Oh, because all the bars are closed." But I was like, I was thinking about the liquor store wasn't closed,
yeah.
right? Like just thinking about what I would have done. That's why,
Yeah,
I
I
would have
think
went
it
to the liquor
removed
store.
temptation, and, like, there are obviously harder aspects of it, but I think what helped for me is it removed some temptation, and it made meetings accessible to me anytime that I needed.
Right? Yeah, yeah,
I could go
yeah,
to 5 meetings a day, and honestly, most most weeks I go to 1 or 2 meetings a day,
yeah.
and because it's not because I need to, and I'm a good,
Uh,
alcoholic in recovery, but
yeah,
because I feel relief, and I feel understood, and I feel like I belong, and I
yeah,
just notice how much that is important to me. So
yeah. Yeah, I know. I loved it. Once when Zoom hit, like man, I was in New Zealand, I was in Australia, you know, I was all around the world in meetings. You know, someone was weird because of the time difference. You know,
Yeah.
so like the ones where it's like midnight my time, I'm like, I'm barely like awake kind of thing. I'm not sharing, but I'm listening. You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was great. You know, in Hawaii too. There's meetings I go to in Hawaii. So, but yeah,
Some of
I
my
really wanna.
best friends and the people who are most important to me in my recovery are in the UK and Cyprus and Greece, and
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
never met them in real life, but they know me so well, more than like other people could. So
yeah.
it's
I
pretty
know.
amazing.
I know it's so cool that honestly that's one thing that I'm grateful for. About that because of COVID. I'm not grateful for COVID and people dying, no. But you know, I'm like half glass half full kind type person today.
Totally.
um, is that I got to build so much relationships with people through social media. I have never met a lot of them. The majority I've never met before, but now it's starting to become a reality. Like I'm going to go see one of my friends in a couple weeks in
That's
Wyoming. We're going to fly over there. I met some people that's local in like LA around here in California, where I'm at, and you know, got to meet them, and it's just so cool. It's like you said, that connection. Like even though it might be through a screen or a laptop or over the phone or something like that, I don't know. There's something about alcoholics and drug addicts that are sober in recovery that like we just connect. Like it doesn't matter where you're from, what you did, what part of the planet you are. Like it doesn't matter. Like it's like an instant bing, you know,
totally.
connection. It's so
Yep.
amazing. I've never experienced that in anything else ever, you know,
Same.
in my life. It's amazing.
Agreed.
Yeah. But hey, Jenny, thank you so much. You
Yep.
know, I talked to your sister about this the last time, a couple weeks ago. So I'll keep in touch with you guys though. What I would like to do once a month, I go live with three other people. So, you know, we could go all live together again and maybe another person as well. And, you know, just chop it up, more recovery stuff and some
Yeah.
topics and some questions and things like that, some Q&As, you know?
So
Yeah.
cool.
Okay. But yeah, I will keep in touch with you guys about that. So I don't have one for next month yet in June. So I want to do that at least once a month. So yeah, I'm really looking
Yeah.
forward to that. Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds
But
great.
thank you again so much for your time. You know, this hour you'll never get back. And, you know, it's amazing that, like, you know, what your life was like, what happened to you, what you're like today, and how you can be of service. And, you know, you're such a great example for your daughter. It's amazing, man. I mean, my hat is off to you again. You know,
Thank
thank you
you
so
so
much for
much.
being here.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much for all you do. Appreciate
Thank
you.
you. See ya. Okay, guys, so that was Jenny's story. If you guys got a story to tell, you know somebody got a story to tell, reach out to me and we can make that happen. I go live on the weekends, on Saturdays, twice a day on Saturday, at 12 noon and at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So, again, if you have a story to tell, reach out to me. Let's make it happen. You guys have a great weekend. Aloha.